You try to, make purpose to what you're trying to do on a daily basis. So your practices during that period of time, you want to make sure that you're going on the ice and doing things in the weight room that are beneficial. They're not too long, and keep the players' attention. I think this past weekend, obviously being Thanksgiving, was it's always a special time of year. It seemed, the 3 days you take off and you don't play games. We practice Sunday night. The players come back energized, and so it's a long season. And if you can get breaks here and there, it's certainly away from the rink. And so this past weekend, where they were away from the rink, they were away from us, and got a chance to spend time with family. And I think those type of weekends are beneficial and came at a good time. So each one you try to treat as best you can under the circumstances. This past one, obviously, they played Minnesota. Coming off that, you'd like to continue to play because you're playing at a real high level. But I think the benefit of having a weekend off and getting a chance to spend time with family and getting away from hockey for a couple of days is also beneficial.
Mark, how do you think this long road challenge makes this team better?
This one, you got to take things out of the weekend. We played Minnesota and try to build off those, things that we were able to do. Even the game that we tied and lost in a shootout and came back the next night, played really well and won a big game. And you just want to continue to build. And so whether it was in September, we're playing our first weekend, the next weekend you want to get better. And I'm looking for things to continue to improve and players to continue to get better individually and then collectively as a team just to get stronger and stronger. So the best place to find those things out is usually on the road.
Now that you've had more time to kind of see and think and let that series of Minnesota sink in and whatnot, biggest takeaways, things you want the girls to build on and stuff, just going forward?
Well, I look at it. I'm getting text messages from people all over the country that got a chance to watch the game, and a lot of people were impressed with both teams. And I think overall, the two games that they got a chance to watch, and the fans that came to Le Mans to get to see us play, were treated to some great, entertaining hockey. I'm not sure there's been a better weekend of hockey in the long time that we've had Le Mans Open than that weekend, just because both teams had high-profile players playing at a real elite level and competing. The games were somewhat physical if you watched them, so it was just great to see our team rise to the occasion, and certainly Minnesota coming up and putting on a real strong fight. So I think the end result is you find out some things about your team, but more importantly, you just get a smile on your face because women's hockey has come that far, and it was so good to watch.
You mentioned the team that's given you some fits over the years.
Oh, yeah.
What do you expect out of it? How do you kind of fight through that if it's not going the way you want it right away? Because we've seen that where if they can keep you off the board for a while, the pressure seems to build.
Yeah, their identity is right out there in front of you. There's no secrets to what they do. They're, obviously I think Jim does a great job in coaching, and the players come prepared and they work extremely hard. They're willing to block shots and, play a little bit physical a game. And so, in their building, they're probably going to be more comfortable. They're going to be more relaxed. And so they're coming off a couple road trips. But, for us to be successful, there's certain things you have to do, and obviously you'd like to get off to a good start. So that first 20 minutes in both games, you'd like to play well. You like to create some chances and try to get a couple pucks in. But that's my game plan. They have certainly a different game plan. So it's one of those games on the road that it's more about what we do than what we're up against. And we're doing the things that we're capable of doing, then we should create chances. Now that doesn't mean we're going to score goals, but it means we're going to be playing well.
You grew up on the other side of town from the Sooners, I know, but that family has meant a lot to Matt, and they're getting recognized here at the men's game on Friday night. Can you speak to what they've made? Going back all the way back to Marlowe and the way he played in the 50s and 60s, and then played in some of the barnstorming leagues, and what that all meant to Madison for their family.
It's meant a lot. I'm disappointed we're on the road, and I'm going to miss Friday night's game because it's certainly been fun to be here and be a part of that celebration because there's a lot to celebrate. And as you mentioned, go back to Marlowe, and I remember as a youth hockey player, playing for the Flyers and going over to Hartmeyer and spending a Saturday or Sunday afternoon or morning watching and playing games myself and watching Marlowe always walk out of the rink or into the rink with a stick and 4 or 5 pair of skates because he had a skate sharpener in his basement. So not only did he sharpen the players that he was coaching and his sons, but the other players and other teams, and used to sharpen skates for the UW at one point when Wisconsin used to practice out there and used to have to bus out there in the old days. And so they've meant a lot. And then, you look at the history of Madison and the hockey and how it grew and some of the important peoples that early on helped it grow. And certainly Marlowe's one of them. And then you look at what, John was able to do at Wisconsin, and certainly Bobby, and then Bobby passing the torch on and giving his kids an opportunity, and see where Ryan's, carrying that torch now with running Cap Ice Center. Obviously he's still playing pro hockey, but he's still giving back to the sport that was so good to them. And so the only hard part was Bobby took, the rink, instead of building it on the east side of town, he built it over in Middleton. But more people get exposed and have got a chance to play in his rink when he built it, and it's still going on. So nothing but great things. Our friendship, our family's friendship, still goes on, even though my dad's passed away a long time ago. I know Marlo and Dodie get together with my mom, whether it's once a month or once every couple months, and talk about the old days. And so great friendships that continue to grow and blossom and certainly cherish. And you mentioned the Sooners, and it goes synopsis with ice hockey in Madison.
How's James recovering from the ankle and going?
Pretty good. Yeah, I think she's going on the ice today.
Okay. Is that the first time she'll be
Yep.
back out there?
Yeah, big time. So I don't know whether she can stop pucks doing that. I don't think so, but step in the right direction.
So it might be a little bit of time still, whether you.
I would say, yeah, she probably won't be dressing this weekend. We'd be more looking at getting her ready for Mankato weekend.
Okay. Well, that puts Tammy, into a situation where I know she had to play both games last weekend.
Yep.
The Minnesota weekend, but wasn't necessarily planned that way. How would you see for her in bouncing back from that first game? Because that didn't go the way she wanted to, but she got put into a situation where she had to come through for you.
Actually, for the first time playing back-to-back, it's not a bad way to have had it happen, because, she didn't have all day to think about, or the night before to think about, I got to play this game after a shootout loss. And so it's like I yelled down to her, get your stuff ready, get on the ice, get warmed up. It doesn't look like Jane's going to be able to go, so just get out there and, okay, here we go. Make a couple saves, got into the game, and played well, was consistent. And for her, it was probably a good thing, because after losing the shootout game, Saturday, now you get a chance again right away, instead of having to wait 6 or 7 days until we go up to play Bemidji. So for her, it's probably a pretty good scenario. For us, we got a chance to look at her in back-to-back, not only against an opponent, but a real high-level